Gotta hit those, don't I? That's not mine. Yes, it is. Thank you. Good day. All right. Boom. We got action. We live and in person. You know what I'm saying? Live and in person. You know what I'm saying? Get ready to deal with that real quick, light, real fast. Make it quick and snappy. You know what I'm saying? Ain't gonna try to spend too much time on that. But we're gonna look at that Isaiah 40. Oh, this thing done went offline. We're gonna try to look at that Isaiah 44 and 5, man. We done looked at it before, man. But you know, people love to grab that particular verse as a justification for naming themselves Israel. Don't really even sit back and look at what the verse actually talking about, what it actually means, and what it actually dealing with. So, if who are willing, we will do so. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to go from there. So that's what we're gonna do, man. You know, the brother ain't really mean no harm. He was going in. He said he feel like that his whole stance was that we should honor Yah in all things, even our names. And he was like that if you keep your slave name, which is kind of crazy because the only part of your name that was given to you by your oppressor would have been your last name, because your parents or someone in your family or someone close to your family is the reason why you have your first name. He was just referring to that names have meanings, in which they do. But the naming of your name means absolutely nothing when all of your ancestors had Abarim names and Yah in their names, and mass majority of them were wicked and they were evil. You know what I'm saying? So a name. Then I seen another brother, he was like, you can't have bitter and sweet, this, that, there, and the third. And he was just talking about the culture. And you know, the master talked about that. That's what a lot of people's problem is. They Hebrew cultured up and wicked as the day is long. Wicked as Sheol. Wicked as the burning lake of hell. You know what I'm saying? And that stuff don't make no sense, man. Like, dudes already know, man, you're not going to see me with no garments on. You know what I'm saying? I don't wear that. That's not my thing. I'm not mad at anybody who does. You know what I'm saying? You're not finna see me flexing all this Hebrew this and Hebrew that. For what? I can know it and not say a word. You know what I'm saying? For what? What's the point of that? What's the point of me changing my name, my heart filthy? What's the point of all of that? And what I told the brother this morning, because he had tagged that young brother in it too. So he was talking to me about it this morning. And we'll probably look at it too. Now the culture, the language, the garments have just replaced it how your ancestors gloried in circumcision. You're just glorying in your flesh, and you're not glorying in Yahuwah. And you're trying to make people think you're glorying in Yahuwah, but you're really glorying in yourself. You know what I'm saying? And therefore, it could lead to an ugly situation for you. Nevertheless, though, it's 7:33. We finna pop this thing off right now. So we finna pray. Ain't got no time to play. So we're gonna get there right on off into it. Leah and Lizzie, go get your hats. I don't know where they went though. They have escaped. They have escaped. They have escaped. Leah and Lizzie have escaped. Leah and Lizzie have escaped. You know, just things to think about, run through your mind. You know what I'm saying? Don't want to get caught out there glorying in your flesh. Glorying in your flesh could get you in a place where you don't want to be, going in a way that you don't want to go. They back that. All right, y'all. Let us pray. I ain't got time. Righteous Father Yahuwah, we thank you for thy mercies, thy goodness, and thy salvation. We ask you to turn your face unto this people whom you have named Yashar'al, to the Yahudim first, and also to the heathen. All those who serve thee in Ruach and in truth, let thy mercies be upon them. To all the synagogues and assemblies of Yahuwah and thy servants who edify thy people through thy word. Strengthen them that they gather together perfect in one in the beauty of Kadesh, and that thy word may reign supreme, that all esteem and honor may be redound to thy name by way of your Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. Remember the hosts and the Shamahim and the Kadesh apostles and prophets that paid the way of the faith, and sent laborers into the harvest, for the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. That the word which you covenanted with our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob might be fulfilled, that uncircumcised hearts might be humbled, that we might turn unto thee, to serve thee with the whole heart, the whole mind, and the whole soul, that you might be our Elohim and we might be thy people. Remember Jerusalem, the city of salvation, which you chose to place thy name, and cleanse of the unkadash who defile her, and plant back the people of thy kadashness, that we might dwell in the land where our fathers dwell. Remember the city of the firstborn individually and collectively, and let the love of her Mashiach dwell in our hearts by faith. Direct us and strengthen us according to thy truth, that we might show forth the power which is in thy name, the righteousness which is in thy name, and to show forth the manifold attributes of thy name, that all honor and esteem might redound to Yahuwah, Elohim, and Shamahim, and the rest, through thy Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. As we proceed further, Father, we ask thee for a word from on high, word of truth and righteousness to come unto us, that we may know him that is true, that we are in him that is true, even our Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. This is the true Elohim and eternal life. Father, we give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yahuwah by Hashem, Yahushua, this day. So be it. John 5 and 39. John 5 and 39. Hold on one second, everybody. John 5 and 39. Hold on. What's happening, bro? Bang! I knew that was going to happen. Hold on one second, everybody. Yeah, that's what I was waiting on. All right, I got you, man. All right. Dang! That's that doggone Callahan for you. That's that doggone Callahan for you. John 5:39 says this: Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me, and you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. Isaiah 44 and 1. Hold on, y'all. I'm going to just call him this time, since he tried to call me in that thing. Oh, never mind. There you go. All right, I got you, man. Okay, Callahan ain't get you that time. Isaiah 44 and 1. I gotta say, man, the brother was going hard about it. About that it's mental slavery if you choose to keep your last name and not go legally change your name. I don't know why he would say you got your first name from your oppressor when your mama named you that, or your daddy named you that, or your grandma named you that, or your granddaddy named you that. So I don't even know how that come into play. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no slave master gave nobody who could hear the sound of my voice they name. I forgot why my mama chose my name. I don't even know what she said it was, but it is what it is. Yet now hear, O Jacob my servant, and Yashar'al whom I have chosen. Thus saith Yahuwah that made thee and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee. Fear not, O Jacob my servant, and thou Yashar'al whom I have chosen. Now, we're just going to sit back and look at that there. Again, he's talking about, he mentioning chosen twice. And we're going to deal with chosen, most high willing, in just a moment. When we look at chosen in this particular verse, it's just the elect or decided to be chosen or selected, or someone who is even excellent, and that is Bakar. Someone who is chosen is excellent. And just keep that in mind and say we're going, because I got to work that back into what we were talking about with Jacob. And Yashar'al is upright one, a symbolic name for Yashar'al, dealing with the ideal character. So he says, Yashar'al whom I have chosen. Let's pause and bear with me. And let's go back to Genesis 25 and let's work with that. Because he's sense and he steady mentioning Jacob. Let's go back and look at that. This is his servant whom he have chosen. And this will make sense, y'all willing, by the time we get done. I ain't trying to be too long. So I'm going to try to jam pack a lot in a little bit of time. So bear with me. Genesis chapter 25, right, verse 23. And it says, Yahuwah said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and took hold, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 60 years old when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Now, we talked about Jacob and that plain man dwelling in tents, and just for information's sake, to jog everybody's memory, we'll look at that word again. If I pick the right verse, we'll be able to do that. Excuse me. Remember now, Yashar'al is an ideal character, upright one. It say Jacob was a plain man, he was dwelling in tents. And that word is Tom. It's someone who is perfect and complete, sound and wholesome, one who is ethically pure and morally innocent, having integrity, or that Jacob was an upright man. Period. Remember now, he was already chosen. He was already chosen. Already chosen. So let's turn around and let's look at our Romans chapter 9. Let's look at Romans chapter 9. He was already chosen. Remember, he said, Yashar'al, who I've chosen, my upright one. And then this is going to manifest into something else, most high willing, by the time we get up out of here. Romans 9, probably about verse 5. Listen to what the man say, Romans 9, about verse 5, right? Whose are the, well, that's fine. They say, whose are the fathers, and of whom as concerning the flesh Mashiach came, who is over all, and Elohim Baruch forever. Amen. Not as though the word of Elohim have taken of none effect. And they say, now this word of Elohim ain't took no effect. But for they are not all Yashar'al which are of Yashar'al. Now this is a strong, strong statement of which he's making. He said, everybody that's of Yashar'al is not of Yashar'al. Everyone is not of him that rules is Elohim. Now bear with me again. We good in Genesis 25. We still holding Isaiah 44. But let's go look at Isaiah 59 and 20. And let's begin to look at how everybody that is of the house of Yashar'al is not actually of Yashar'al. Let's sit back and look at that while we hold Romans chapter 9. Because we're going to have to look at his offspring. He's going to be talking about that offspring in Isaiah 44 in just a moment. So let's look at his offspring. Isaiah 59 and 20. And the Redeemer shall come to Zion unto them that turn from transgression, and Jacob saith Yahuwah. As for me, this is my covenant with them, saith Yahuwah. My ruach that is upon thee, and my words which I have put in thy mouth, shall not depart out of thy mouth, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seed, saith Yahuwah, from henceforth and forever. So now he just sat back and said, this is the covenant that he would make with all those who turn from transgression. So he put his ruach on them, and he put his words in their mouth. Now let's look at something that Peter expounded on in 1 Peter chapter 1 and about verse 16. And let's see what he says. Matter of fact, because you know Peter tells you in 1 Peter chapter 2 that you have some that are elect and precious. And then he tells you that there are some who have been disallowed and disobedient because they haven't believed the testimony of Mashiach. Therefore, they can't receive it, and they stumble and fall to their own destruction. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 16. We'll make it 15. But as he which have called you is Kadesh, so be ye Kadesh in all manner of behavior. Because it is written, be ye Kadesh, for I am Kadesh. And if you shall call on the Father who without respect of persons, judge according to every man's work past the time of your sojourning here in fear. Now, if you sit back and remember, it says that Jacob literally means that he's an upright man. He's a blameless man. He has integrity. We talked about that last week when we were looking at some of the stuff that Jacob went through with Laban. He showed his integrity. He mentioned that when your cattle went away, you know, I paid for that. He said, if it wasn't for the fear of Elohim, I know I wouldn't even got none of the things that I had. showing his doctrine and his patience and all those things that we talked about when we looked at Jacob. And we sit back and we see how that related to the master and how he exhibited this behavior. And this is what his chosen are going to do. His chosen are going to reflect him. See, everybody wants to put the name of Yashar'al, Israel, Yisrael, however they want to say it, upon themselves, but then they're not reflecting that. Because Yashar'al means power to rule as Elohim, and with man and Elohim thou have prevailed. Just to look at that, Genesis 32 and 28, just for anybody who don't know. So you can see that's what it means. Genesis 32 and 28. And it said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Yashar'al, for as a prince, so you'll be a ruler or a king, so to speak. Thou hast power with Elohim. So you would have power with Elohim and with men, and has prevailed. So if you sit back and you look at the name Yashar'al, that means you got power with Elohim and with men, and you have prevailed. You have overcame. You have conquered. This is also the meaning of the tribe of Naphtali. Prevailing, overcoming. We're talking about enduring. And enduring, overcoming is going to be the byproduct of endurance. You understand what I'm saying? It's going to be the byproduct of endurance. This is what Peter is sitting back. He say, without respect to persons, carry on your sojourning here in fear. Like we spoke about, you come back to 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 18. Like we were talking about last week, and we're not finna just rehash that and go back and read it. As we were talking about with Jacob, he said that. He said, if it wasn't for the fear of Elohim, I knew I wouldn't have got nothing. His fear and his reverence for Elohim, he passed his time in the land of Syria with Laban with fear or respect towards Yah in his behavior. He was just in his behavior and everything that he did. He showed forth that integrity, to show forth that coming from the womb, that he was Tom. He was a morally innocent man. He was a chosen man. He was an upright man, showing you Yashar'al. So if we want to sit back and scream that you want these names and the reflection of these names, then you're going to have to show the reflection of Elohim. You're going to have to show the reflection of Elohim if you're going to say, I want Yashar'al as my name. As we go about to read the verse that dudes like to scream for, that's representative of their name, when it's not actually representative of you naming yourself, it's representative of Yah placing his name upon you. As he placed it upon Jacob, as he placed it upon Mashiach, and then turn around, and then you're naming yourself after that, and you're going to have to carry yourself in that fashion to justify that name being upon you, or you claiming that family name, so to speak. Where we at? Verse 18, 1 Peter chapter 1. For as much as ye know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold from your vain behavior received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Mashiach as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, who truly was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who by him do believe in Elohim that raised him up from the dead and gave him esteem, that your faith and hope might be in Elohim. See, that's to sit back and look at it. If you're going to sit back and say you're going to have the name of Yashar'al on you. We also read this last week when we were looking at Jacob as well. When he woke up from that dream in the 28th chapter of Genesis. What did he do? He poured oil upon a rock. And he said, if you keep me in this way that I go, and give me bread to eat and raiment to clothe, I'll give you a tenth of all I have, and I'll go wherever you go and serve you however you want me to serve you. Because his faith and his hope was in Elohim. The same way Hamashiach, his faith and his hope was in his Father. He said, my Father gave me a commandment what I should say and what I should speak. I know his commandment is life everlasting. So if you're going to sit back and you say, I'm going to name myself Yashar'al, and you're going to have all of these attributes. And it's a lot of brothers that are false flagging. You lying. You're not representative of that. You hadn't been chosen to that. But we sitting back looking at Jacob's behavior was showing that he was chosen to be a prince and a ruler as Elohim, and have power with Elohim. To have power with Elohim. The Apostle Paul told you in let's look at it, 1 Corinthians chapter 4. And then we come back to Romans chapter 9. Because remember, he say the covenant in Isaiah 59 that I make with you. He say, I put my ruach on you, and I put my words in your mouth. Remember, he say, well, the word of the king is there is power. So then you sit back and look at it, and we'll look at that in another aspect. Even sit back and show you that with the apostles as well. 1 Corinthians 4 and about 20. First Corinthians 4, make it about 17. Make it 16. Matter of fact, make it 15. 14 even better. 1 Corinthians 4 and 14. I write not these things to shame you, but as my beloved sons, I warn you. For though you have 10,000 instructors in Mashiach, yet ye have not many fathers. For in Yahushua HaMashiach I have begotten you through the gospel. Wherefore I beseech you, be ye followers of me. For this cause have I sent unto you Timotheus, who is my beloved son and faithful in the master, who shall bring you into remembrance of my wage which be in Mashiach, as I teach everywhere in every house. Now some are puffed up as though I would not come to you. But I will come to you shortly, if the master will, and will know, not the speech of them which are puffed up, but the power. Hold on. Hello? Hello? What's going on? For the kingdom of Elohim is not in word, but in power. This is what he's sitting back telling you. The reign, the righteousness of your Elohim is not in word, but it's in power. Now, Yashar'al means to have power with Elohim. He just stated in Isaiah 59, the covenant that he would make with you, he would put his ruach on you and his words in his mouth, in your mouth, which would therefore be the power of Elohim. We sit back and we say these things, but yet we have no power. But yet we want to put this man's name on us, and you're not manifesting that you've actually overcome to have the power. One of the first instances that you would have power with Elohim is that you would have control over your own will. That you would submit your will to his will, manifesting that power. So, a lot of brothers want to see the power as forth as it comes to as forth as spiritual gifts, whether it's casting out demons, you know what I'm saying, whether it's speaking in tongues, and all of these representation of this man's power. Now, we could turn around and you could sit back and we could see this with the apostles, you know what I'm saying, as forth as it is written. And Yahuwah gives gifts as he see fit, when he see fit. You can't sit back and, I can't sit back and say why you don't give this person this gift or that person that gift. That's up to him. You don't have no control over that. But the main reason why we don't have power with Elohim is because we don't have faith with Elohim. And the trust is lacking very, very greatly. But let's come back to Romans chapter 9. I don't want to get that lost in the sauce before we jump to something else. Now we in verse 7. He said, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. That is, they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of Elohim, but the children of the promise are counted for the seed. Clearly we read in Genesis 25 earlier that there was a promise made to Jacob. So he was counted as the seed versus Esau not being counted. But this is the word of the promise, at this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. And not only this, but when Rebekah, see, that's why he put this in there, not only this. Not only this. You just sit back and look at it. He just didn't make a promise to Abraham and Sarah. He turned around and he made that promise to Rebekah. Not only this, but when Rebekah also conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, for the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of Elohim according to the election might stand, not of works, but of him that called. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with Elohim? Elohim forbid. For he saith to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So we turn around and sit back and look at it. It say Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. He was a morally upright, innocent man. He was a pure man. He was a just man from the womb. From the womb. He had already been chosen according to the favor of Elohim under salvation to show himself forth to be of Yashar'al. And that's what we're going to sit back and look at. Is a lot of people want to put that name on them, but you may not have necessarily been chosen by this man. And when we look at being chosen by this man, we're going to see certain attributes and things that individuals would do to manifest that you have this man's name upon you. Because naming yourself Yisrael, Yashar'al, Israel means absolutely nothing if that name is not recorded on high. You just a nigga who changed their name. It might make you feel good in your mind, but it ain't going to do nothing for your spirit. Come on back to Isaiah 44. So we stop right there in verse 2, and we looked at that because he said, Yashar'al, whom I have chosen, which was another name for Yashar'al, which is a representation of the ideal character that Yah wanted him to represent. When we look at the ideal character of what he wants us to represent, let's look at what he would sit back and he would say. Let's look at something like this here, right? Let's look at Matthew chapter 9. Matthew chapter 9 and about verse 9. After Matthew 9 and 9, Hosea 6 and 6. Might be about 6 and 4. We still holding Isaiah 44. Let's look at some of the things that we could talk about the ideal character that he's referring to. And as Yahushua passed forth from thence, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the receipt of custom. And he saith unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him. Keep that in mind about how he just called this man. And it came to pass, as Yahushua sat at meat in the house, behold, many publicans and sinners came and sat down with him and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto his disciples, Why eat your master with publicans and sinners? But when Yahushua heard that, he said unto them, They that behold need not a physician, but they that are sick. But go ye and learn what that mean, and I will have mercy and not sacrifice, for I come not to call the righteous but sinners to repentance. Now, this the key thing is he told them to go learn about mercy. Now, if you want to sit back and look at the ideal character of Yahuwah, it would be mercy. Remember, we just read that in the Exodus 9, referencing Exodus 33, where he said he'll show mercy on whom we show mercy and compassion to whom we show compassion. We talked about that last week when we were looking at loving your enemies, how Yahuwah loves his enemies and show mercy unto them as an example that you might do the same, that you might be perfect as your father in Shamahim was perfect, showing forth the same attributes that you would see with Jacob, who was morally innocent and upright from the womb. Showing forth that he was chosen. See, there's certain character traits where you can see that there. Because he tell you that many are called, few are chosen. You can be called to it. That don't mean he chose you, though. Hosea 6. Hold on, let me get there. There we go. Hosea chapter 6. Verse 4. O Ephraim, what shall I do unto thee? O Yehudah, what shall I do unto thee? For your goodness is as a morning cloud, and as the early dew, it go away. Therefore have I hewed them by the prophets, I have slain them by the words of my mouth. And thy judgments are as the light that go forth. For I have desired mercy and not sacrifice, and the knowledge of Elohim more than burnt offerings. See, this is what this man sat back and said. He desired mercy. See, let's look at Exodus 34 and let's see why he would desire mercy. And then after Exodus 34, James chapter 2, he said he desired mercy and burnt and the knowledge of Elohim more than sacrifices. But I don't think that our people seem to understand that one now. See, we don't like to show no mercy, because then we feel like that's a sign of being weak. But then we sitting back saying that Yahuwah's perfect and upright character is weak. If he gonna sit back and say, my ruach that is upon thee, that's upon you, he gonna put it upon his seed and his seed and his seed. So that same ruach that's upon the Mashiach is the same ruach that come from his father. But yet we seem to like to resist that particular aspect of this man's character. Nobody wants to show forth that part of his character, or you want to selectively show it to whom you want to show it to. Exodus chapter 34, verse 5. And Yahuwah descended in a cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name of Yahuwah. And Yahuwah passed by before him and proclaimed Yahuwah Elohim, merciful and favorable, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the third and fourth generation. One of the key aspects that we see of this man's character encapsulated in his name is mercy. How do you sit back and you even think that Jacob even had to have power with Elohim when he sat back and showed mercy to Laban when Laban changed his wages 10 times? You don't think he could have called on Yahuwah to justify him? Instead, he let Yahuwah do it on his own and his righteousness speak for him. You don't think he could have did that with Esau? Do you not sit back and read and look at all the times Jacob showed mercy, showing forth how he was a just and upright man from the womb? And we can turn around and even look at that with the master. And we'll come back as forth as him healing the person with the hand. You know what I'm saying? healing the woman with the issue of blood, the blind man, feeding the people. The fact that he came and died for the just and sinners alike was showing the mercy and compassion of Elohim. And you're supposed to follow suit. See, let's look at James chapter 2. But see, we don't like to follow suit.
Go pick it up.
James chapter 2. Let's look at about verse 3. Make it verse 1. One of the key things where you can see where people have no mercy is they have respect of persons. So you'll sit back and somebody will sit back and they'll take heed to somebody else's word or judge somebody better because they like this person, which is a violation of Deuteronomy chapter 10. Yahuwah is not a respect of persons. My brethren, have not the faith of our master Yahushua HaMashiach, the master of esteem with respect of persons. That goes against the law. Leviticus 19 and 15 don't tell you that there. Paul told you not to esteem one above another, to have no partiality. For if there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and you have respect to him that wear the gay clothing, and say unto him, sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor, stand thou there, or sit here under my footstool. Are you not then partial in yourselves and are become judges of evil thoughts? This man just sat back and said, you partial in yourself. But let's turn around and look at something. John chapter 7. Let's see what that it is. See, you'll sit back and we'll look at some outward things. And you'll say that them outward things would be a determination as if a man is just or not. So if a man come in with Hebrew garments and a fancy Hebrew name, would you judge him to be better than a man who came in with quote-unquote European clothing and a slave name? Would you judge that man to be more righteous and honorable to Yahuwah? Therefore you would show yourselves to be partial in your own selves and judges of evil thoughts. After we look at John chapter 7 about verse 20, we're going to look at Matthew chapter 23. John chapter 7 verse 20. Matter of fact, this is going to make it 16. Yahushua answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. If any man do his will, he shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of Elohim or whether I speak of myself. He that speak of himself seek his own esteem. But he that seeketh his esteem that sent him, the same is true, and no unrighteousness is in him. Did not Moses give you the Torah, yet none of you keep the Torah? Why go ye about to kill me? Then the people answered and said, thou hast a devil, who go about to kill thee? Yahushua answered and said unto them, I have done one work, and you all marvel. Moses therefore gave unto you circumcision, not because it is of Moses, but of the fathers. And you on the Shabbat day circumcise a man. If a man on the Shabbat day receive circumcision, that the Torah of Moses shall not be broken, are you angry at me because I have made a man every whit whole on the Shabbat day? Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Come on back to James chapter 2. You know, that's where a lot of our people be messing up at. That's the same thing that the Most High told Samuel when he was going to anoint David. He say, y'all don't look upon appearance, but he look upon the heart. See, we'll look upon appearance and not wait for a man to manifest what's in his heart. You'll see a woman, she look good to you. Like to see she got her head covered, you'll swear up and down she righteous. Oh yeah, she's a righteous woman right there. She's a righteous woman right there, boy. She's a righteous woman. You know what I'm saying? She's a righteous woman. You'll sit back and some brothers will sit back and see somebody with them garments on, nice miter on, big old fringes on, bracelets and all that stuff there, man. I'm talking about Hebrew dot, come tell you a name you can't even pronounce. You be like, I know that brother, that righteous boy. You see him, he's immersed in the culture. He is immersed in the culture. That brother there is upright and righteous. And I'm telling you, dudes will sit back and they'll look at somebody who don't have all them things and is not dressed like that, and they won't look at him with look at him with the same esteem as they'll look at that man with that so-called immersed in the culture. And that's transgression. That's transgression. That's respected person. This man just sat back and said, are you not partial in yourselves? I mean, you're not whole and complete. You're not Tom. You're not like Jacob. Come on back to James chapter 2, man, verse 5. I know I mentioned that Romans 23. I'm gonna get to it. It's a couple things in Romans, and then not Romans, but in Corinthians, and that we got to hit when it comes to that. Galatians 2. He said, "Hearken, my beloved brethren, have not Elohim chosen the poor of this world, rich in faith, heirs of the kingdom which he hath promised to them that love him? But you have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seats? Do they not blaspheme thy worthy name by which you are called?" See, that's the thing we have to sit back and look at. There's a lot of brothers and sisters of ours that blaspheme this worthy name by which we call, and they blaspheme it by being uncircumcised in their heart. This man ain't never told you about, you didn't see your ancestors when they came up out of Babylon worried about what type of clothes they had on, or worried about what their name was. See, let's go to Nehemiah chapter 1, and let's just look at what was going on as a group of people coming out of captivity. Now, of course, they didn't forget who they were. You know what I'm saying? That didn't happen. 1 and 4, but nevertheless. Let's look at something that Nehemiah prayed, and let's look at what's going on. "And it came to pass, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept and mourned certain days, and fasted and prayed before the Elohim of Shamahim. And I said, I beseech thee, O YAHUAH Elohim of Shamahim, the great and terrible Elohim, that keep covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments." And the king said, he said he keep covenant and mercy. When you take hold of this man's covenant, he'll show mercy on you. When you sit back and you look at, and there's some of us that he has showed mercy on before you even born. See, the Lamb was slain from the foundation of the world, but he had already showed mercy on the Mashiach because he had already said that he was going to resurrect him from the dead. "Let thine ear not be attentive and thy eyes open, that thou may hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray thee now, day and night, for the children of Yashar'al thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Yashar'al, which we have sinned against thee. Both I and my father's house have sinned." You know, this is the same type of thing that Daniel prayed. And this is the same type of thing that Mashiach did. When he went to make his supplications unto his father, he came and he prayed for the people. He said, "Father, make them perfect in one as we are, that the whole world may know thee." This man came to sacrifice himself and confess the sins of all of Yashar'al that him and his father's house committed, which him and the whole house of Yehuda committed since Hamashiach became the sins of Yashar'al. Therefore, he had to confess the sins of Yashar'al. He said, "We have dealt very corruptly against thee, and have not kept thy commandments, nor thy statutes, nor thy judgments, which thou commanded thy servant Moses." Then we swing over here to chapter 2, which we're not going to read all that. And then the king tells all these people to leave. We could look at another place in Ezra. Matter of fact, let's look in Ezra. And let's look at something that Ezra prayed when the people were wilding. Ezra chapter 9. Let's look at another thing that he prayed. Verse 6. Ezra 9 and 6. Since we over here, let's look at something that he prayed. Because see, these people were seeking mercy from Elohim. Let's go back to that parable when the man was sat back that owed his ruler. And he told him he forgave him all his debts. But then when somebody owed him, he wouldn't forgive him his debts. And he said, "You wicked servant, you hypocrite." You know what I'm saying? That's the whole thing that we look at, is that we want mercy shown unto us, but we don't want to show mercy. And you see that with Jacob, whom was his chosen, Yashar'al, whom he chose. He showed mercy to men who didn't deserve for mercy to be showed unto them. Laban didn't deserve mercy to be showed unto him. Esau didn't deserve mercy to be showed unto him, but yet he manifested it and he showed it. He showed his manner of life. He showed his doctrine. He showed his patience. He showed his trust and his hope in Yahuwah. He showed forth that he was Yashar'al. He had power with Elohim. This man told you, he said his strength is made perfect in weakness. We don't look at those things. We don't want to esteem in infirmities. We want to be extra strong because we overcompensating for things that we don't, for insecurities and issues that we don't really want people to know about. That's why dudes do that. That's why it's hard for them to do certain things. That's why it'd be hard for certain people to suffer shame for this man's name. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people not going to be willing to do that because they want that sense of strength. They want that sense of prestige in the eyesight of other people. You know what I'm saying? Trust and believe. It's people that's always going to have some very, very bad things to say about you. I'm talking about, and whether they be true or whether they not. Now, if they true, they ain't really bad things. They just facts. You know what I'm saying? But you have people that don't have a lot of things to say about you. This, that, there, and the third. If you're one of those that actually care about what people think and care about your perception and the eyesight of people, then you're going to work very hard to craft a particular image that you want them to see of you, rather than just being authentic and just doing what it is that you do. You know what I'm saying? Jacob didn't care about what nobody thought about him. He did what it is that he do. You know what I'm saying? He served his Elohim. He walked uprightly and righteously. And that was the bottom line. And we have to sit back and look at this and mimic these behaviors so we can have power with Elohim. Because Jacob had power with Elohim because of his faith. And because he showed mercy. And because of his manner of life. And Mashiach had power with Elohim because of his faith. And because he showed mercy. And because of his manner of life. This is why he was able to overcome. Y'all don't even sit back and realize Jacob was able to overcome Laban because of his obedience and his faith. Hamashiach was able to overcome Satan because of his obedience and his faith. All you have to do is actually, instead of just being engrossed in the history of the stories, actually look at the behavior that is being exhibited by these men in the stories. I think that's what happens, what we get caught up in. We look at these historical accounts of our ancestors and we get wrapped up of wanting to know the history and not actually looking at what Romans 15 tells us, that these things that were written aforetime were written for our learning. It was written to show us what to do and what not to do. The exhibition of righteous acts and the exhibition of unrighteous acts. And if we can actually pay attention to the exhibition of righteous acts and mimic them, we would actually be mimicking Yahushua, because that's what he did. He mimicked these righteous men's behavior. Because all these men were actually mimicking him, even though they knew nothing of him. If we could actually just remember that key point, to look at these righteous men and mimic their behavior, you can actually mimic Elohim. Because Jacob is said to be a just and upright man. Elohim is with no iniquity. He is just and upright altogether. All together. All together. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, you would actually be walking as Elohim and end up having power as Elohim if you would just pay attention to these men's behavior. If you would look at their manner of faith, if you actually read about Abraham's faith or read about Isaac's faith or read about Jacob's faith, you could be encouraged and strengthened in your own faith, because it would be as if you were watching them live and in action, if you looked at it in that aspect. 9-6. And he said, O my Elohim, I am ashamed, and blush to lift up my face to thee. My Elohim, for our iniquities are increased over our head, and our trespasses is grown up unto Shamahim. Since the days of our fathers have we been in great trespass unto this day. For our iniquities have we, our kings and our priests, have been delivered into the hands of the kings of the land, to the sword, to captivity, and to a spoil, and to confusion of face, as it is this day. And now for a little space favor hath been showed from YAHUAH Elohim, to leave us a remnant to escape, and to give us a nail in this Kadesh place, that our Elohim may lighten our eyes and give us a little reviving in our bondage. See, that's what we have to sit. Come back to James chapter 2. That's what we sit back and look at. In this bondage, what's going to give us a little reviving and lighten our eyes is not garments, it's not names. It's that nail in that set apart place. It's that nail that went through his hands and his feet. You know what I'm saying? What it's going to cause is for men to look within. You know what I'm saying? Within themselves. Let's finish this James chapter 2, and then we get to Matthew 23 and a couple things in Galatians, and then begin the framework of Isaiah 44, Most High willing, rolling into the Shabbat, because it's about 8:13. See, we don't like to look within. We don't like to have introspective times, because you're going to look in and you're going to find some things that you don't really want to see. People don't really like how they look on the inside because it's ugly. See, we don't like when things ugly. We like things to be nice and pretty. James chapter 2. See, now we in verse 7, right? I'm going to read verse 8, right? Now, I didn't go all into it, but like I said, they blasphemed the worthy name by which you are called. You know what this man say about the name of Elohim is blasphemed amongst the Gentiles by you? Now, you know, we had a brother sat back and felt like wasn't nobody showing no mercy and we were showing partiality to him. I'm going to just sit back and be honest. That was somebody who was just looking for somebody to pat him on the butt and just tell him what he wanted to hear, versus just dealing with unadulterated truth. And that had been expressed to him directly. Let that be known. You know what I'm saying? Privately and publicly. Because I can sit back and tell you, there's no need for anybody to sit back and treat this person better, or this person better, and this person better. People feel that way, but then you sit back and look at it, ain't nobody necessarily doing that to nobody else. That's just how you sit back and look at it. Because you're going, like we told you, the master loved John then more than all his other disciples, but he didn't treat them no differently. He didn't sit back and say, okay, I'm going to go off on Peter, but I won't go off on John. It's not the case. Sometimes you have people they don't went off on because they don't do nothing to be went off on. When he went off on his apostles, he went off on all of them. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Stop. 2:8. If you fulfill the royal law according to the scriptures, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, that ye do well. But if you have respect of persons, you commit sin and are convinced of the law as transgressors. Having respect of persons can get you sent to hell. The master didn't have respect of persons. Well, how could he? The law says that YAHUAH don't have respect of persons. So of course the master would. And we shouldn't either. And we should judge things righteously and not according to appearance. Because there's a lot of people appear to be righteous. But Matthew 23 gonna tell you about it though. Matthew chapter 23 and 23. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay the tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the Torah, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone. You blind guides, which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. Thou blind Pharisee, cleanse first that which is within the cup and the platter, that the outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like unto witted sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. Even so ye outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within you are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. See, that man told you in this same chapter, he said they like to enlarge the borders of their garments and all of these type of things, and to be seen of men. And unfortunately, when it comes down to a lot of that Hebrew culture stuff, that's what a lot of these brothers are doing it for, to be seen of men. And to be seen of men means you hold men's person in admiration because of advantage. You know what I'm saying? That you might have a chance to overcome them through advantage. And that you can turn, because I know right now, that we was to slide and go around some of our people, you know what I'm saying? Because at least I speak for me. I ain't wearing no miters. I ain't wearing no headband. I ain't wearing no bracelets. I ain't putting no garments on. I'm going to come in dressed how I dress every single day. I'm going to come talking how I talk every single day. You know what I'm saying? I'm not finna do nothing different, nothing to appease these people. And they might look at us crazy because of it. And might not think that we're not Hebrew enough, or that we're not steeped in the culture enough, or that we could be this and we could be that. You know what I'm saying? But one thing for certain, two things for sure, they could slide on down here and see how we live, and they definitely could come get some of this work because we not on that. You know what I'm saying? I have no need to do that. I have no need to immerse myself in a culture when this man never told me to immerse myself in a culture. He told me to immerse myself in the death of his son, that I might be put to death in sins and quickened to life in righteousness, not to immerse myself in garments, language, and names. You know what I'm saying? I'm not finna do that. I'm just not finna do it. I feel I have no need nor desire to do so. Y'all can do as you wish. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to do it because that stuff don't validate me. It don't make me. It don't justify me at all. That stuff is outward. That's for yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's not for Elohim. That's for yourself. Galatians chapter 6. And after that, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, and we swing back to Isaiah 44. I'm just setting the stage, everybody. We're just setting the stage for when we got more time on the Shabbat to go into detail with it. Galatians chapter 6, right? 6 and 11. That's how I look at all that stuff, man. That culture stuff, I look at it just like this here, what Paul talking about right here. This is how I look at it. You see how large a letter I have written unto you with my own hand? Keep that in mind with that written part too.
As many as desire to make their fair show in the flesh, they constrain you to be circumcised, only lest they should suffer persecution for the sake of Mashiach. See, that's what sit back and look at it, right? You got a lot of people, they coming at you to make a fair show of their flesh, that they constraining you, they trying to get you, man, you need you to change your name, brother. You need to get you some garments. You need to do this here. Therefore, because they don't want to suffer that persecution and that suffering for the stake of Mashiach. That man say, take up your stake daily and follow me. Paul said, I die my flesh daily. That means I mortify my members every day. I deny myself every day. I die to sin every day. Meaning I don't commit sin. I live the Elohim every day. I'm dead to sins and quicken to life. I don't need all that. That stuff don't do nothing for me. That's the difference when you, truth be told, you sit back looking at who's chosen and who's not. The man told you, they that be of the flesh mind the things of the flesh, and they that are of the Ruach mind the things of the Ruach. Now you went that way and consider in your brain. He say, for neither they themselves who are circumcised keep the Torah, but desire to have you circumcised, that they may esteem in your flesh. But Elohim forbid that I should say esteem, save in the stake of our master Yahushua HaMashiach, by whom as the world is crucified unto me, and I unto the world. For in Yahushua HaMashiach neither circumcision avail anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creature. And as many as walk according to this rule, shalom be on them, and mercy upon Yashar'al of Elohim. From henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Master Yahushua. Remember, this man say, the covenant which I make with thee, and the Ruach that's on you, and the words that's in your mouth, I'm putting on your seed. So if you're going to sit back and look at that and be elected and chosen, the only way you're going to be upright and just in Elohim is that you put on Hamashiach and that you suffer in him. We try to avoid that. We try to avoid becoming a new creature. We try to avoid it. Why? I don't know, but we try to avoid it. Come on back to Isaiah 44. Well, I know why we try to avoid it. Because old wine seems better. You don't want the new wine. You want the old one. It tastes better. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm going to be honest with you, too. This is a people that are so short on pride and something to hold on to. Don't get me wrong. I understand the gravitation of wanting to gravitate to your culture. And you know what I'm saying? This is our way of doing these things. You know, we dress like this. We talk like this. Roll that back. Put it back. Put it back. No. You know what I'm saying? But then it begin to be all about that. Hey, was this thing not plugged up? Oh, hold on. It begins to be all about that and nothing else. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to deal with nothing else. And then you get overcome with that. And then you don't reach the level of strength and the level that you should be in the word because of the focus on that. Isaiah 44. I ain't going to hit verse 3 and 4 today, man. I have to save it for time. He say, for I will pour water upon him that is thirsty. You should know. He say, he that is thirsty, let him come unto me and drink. And floods upon a dry ground, and I pour my ruach upon thy seed, and my blessing upon thine offspring. It's the same thing you sit back and you look at, right? The blessing of Elohim was placed upon Jacob, which was placed upon his offspring. You know what I'm saying? And we'll sit back, y'all willing, on the Shabbat and go on this in greater detail and run this back to Jacob. And they shall spring up as among the grass and as willows by the watercourses. One shall say, I am Yahuah's. And another shall call himself by the name of Jacob. And another shall subscribe with his hand unto Yahuah and surname himself Yashar'al. See, this is what brothers read that and they tell him, right? They say, see, we supposed to name ourselves Yashar'al. Right there, it says it right here. When we look at surname, it's a title to be surnamed, to give an epitaph or a flattering title. That's all it is. It's just a flattering title. Well, we know Yashar'al is definitely a flattering title. That's saying that you have power to rule as Elohim. We'll sit back and talk about that briefly, and Most High willing on Shabbat, go into it in greater detail. But then we look at it when it say another shall subscribe with his name, with his hand unto Yahuah, and surname himself Yashar'al. When we look at subscribe, that's katav, and that's to write or to inscribe or to engrave or to write on. So now we sit back and we look at this, and now we start to look at a whole nother different thing. Because now it says somebody will write with their hand. Say, one shall say, I am Yahuah's. And another shall call himself by the name of Jacob. And another shall engrave with his hand unto Yahuwah, and write himself by the name of Yashar'al. And then that should cause you to pause. And that should cause you to think. Because they say a man will inscribe in his hand, and then he will call it, surname himself, or take on the title of Yashar'al. So if we're going to sit back, if everybody wants to take themselves this name of Yashar'al, then something has to be done. And that's what we're going to look at what had to be done briefly. And then most I willing on Shabbat, we go into greater detail, and we're going to look at every single solitary place where it says you got to be engraved. And some of y'all should already know this. This is just rehashing something that you should already know. Some of you, not everybody, but some of you. That all we're going to sit back and look at. Hold on. All we're going to sit back and look at is that they're talking about dying with the master. He said engraved with his hand. You know, it's a lot of brothers sit back and overlook that part when he say subscribe with his hand, engraved with his hand. Well, let's look at engraving in the hand. Let's look at Psalm 22, Job 13 first, Psalm 22. I'm talking about we're going to look at every spot in the Tanakh and just make it very clean and very simple, and then sit back and see what the master engraved on his hand, and now he took on the name Yashar'al, and that'll sit back and show you ain't nobody got no business doing themselves to take on that surname or flattering title, especially if they had not done that themselves. Matter of fact, we'll deal with it. Let's get one out the law. Let's get one out the law. Deuteronomy 10. We would be wrong. We would be remiss if we did not grab one out of the law. I'm just going to run it down straight like this here, and we're going to get up out of here and call it an evening. And most high willing, speak to everyone on the Shabbat. Just make it simple. Deuteronomy chapter 10. I'm sorry, Deuteronomy chapter 11. Deuteronomy chapter 11 and verse 18. My apologies. Deuteronomy 11 and 18. Listen to what the man tell you. Therefore shall you lay up these words, my words, in your heart and in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. He said you need to bind his words on your hand. Bind your words, his words on your hand. Bind them for a sign. For a sign. We look at bind. That is to kashar, that is to bind fast, or to conspire, or to lead together, or to be bound up, or together. Physically girded. Bind these words up in your hand. Bring it all together. Now let's look at Psalm 22. We'll make that Job 13. Then Psalm 22. I'll just go in order. Job 13 and 26. Now it's going to mention his feet. But Psalm 22 going to back up with that. And after that, Zechariah chapter 11 and Isaiah 49. You get several witnesses for it. He say he will subscribe or engrave on his hands. And then he'll surname himself Yashar'al. This is what he said he would do. He say, for thou write bitter things against me, and make me to possess the iniquities of my youth. We went over this before. They wrote bitter things against him. They say he was a blasphemer. They say he was a deceiver. All of these things that he might possess the iniquities of Adam. That he might take on the sins of Adam, and therefore take away death. Because by one man death came in the world, so by one man resurrection of the dead come in. He said, in Adam all died, but in Mashiach all are made alive. So he calls them to possess that iniquity. And now we sit back and look at that when we be immersed in his death, that we are possessing that iniquity and raising in the likeness of his resurrection to be freed from it as he did for us. That's what we sitting back showing, imitating this man. We're imitating this man. Even to a certain extent when we look at Jacob rolling away the stone, the rod of the flocks. That's the same difference that he pouring water. That's what I mentioned, that he pouring water upon the dry ground and upon his seed. He's showing us this. He is showing us this. He's showing Jacob coming to do the same thing that the master did. You know what I'm saying? Which is to uplift his seed. Which is to cleanse his seed. Which is to make it a righteous and upright seed. Which is to make it a chosen people. Elect and precious. And I'm be honest with you, because me and Will were talking about this the other day. Everybody don't look at the book in a holistic view of this man being in the entirety of it. They look at it in sections and pieces. Therefore, it's hard for them to come unto him. This is why he say, you won't come to me that you might have life. They take steps, but they're not coming all the way. And what we not look, and also whether you realize it or not, looking at this part about the engraving in his hand to surname himself Yashar'al is the mercy. Because he said there's forgiveness with him that you might fear. See, we don't turn around and sit back and look at the sacrifice of Mashiach is the mercy that you might turn from your sins and to never walk in them again. But we don't look at it that way because all we want is culture. You want validation from things that are natural instead of validations of things that are spiritual. You want validations of things that are on the earth and not validation from the things that are on how to justify you. Of course you should know your own native tongue. Who would tell you not to? That would be foolish. If you want to wear clothes that are native to your people and what they wore, then by all means wear it. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? You want to change your name? Shoot, change it, nigga. Who cares? But to sit back and to look at other people to say that they could be mentally enslaved or they're not as righteous or upright or is not as close to Yahuwah because they choose not to do them things is respected persons, and you are partial in yourselves and judges of evil thoughts, because that ain't right. That's not what it do. Now you're judging based off of appearance and not righteous judgment. Why do we sit back and judge based off what something looks like and you don't know nothing about the person? We do this every day as a people, as a whole. We do this every day to those who claim to serve the same Elohim that we serve. He said, thou put my feet also in stocks and look narrowly under all my paths. Thou set a print in the heels of my feet. Set a print. Now let's look at what David prophesied of in Psalm 22. Y'all should already know this stuff. We just running it down if somebody come back later and don't see this, and they not aware and they don't know. That's for them. Because most of y'all should already know this. Psalms 22 and verse 16. He said, for dogs have compassed me, and the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They've pierced my hands and my feet. You know, Zechariah 12 tell you about that. They shall look upon me whom they have pierced. He said, they pierced my hands and my feet. Matter of fact, Songs of Solomon chapter 5. We just run it all the way down. All these places where it talk about them man's hands getting pierced. And there are many others. We're just picking out a few. We look at Songs of Solomon chapter 5. And after Songs of Solomon chapter 5, swing to Zechariah 11 or Zechariah 13 and then Isaiah 49. Songs of Solomon chapter 5 and verse 7. He says, the watchmen that went about the city, they found me, they smote me, they wounded me. The keepers of the walls took away my veil from me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that ye tell him that I am sick of love. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell y'all something, right? The apostles loved the master, and we're going to look at it in a moment, and they went looking for him. And they were sick when they couldn't find him. They say, if you find him, please tell him I'm sick of love. Because I'm going to tell you something, right? Hope deferred make the heart sick. That's what the book says. That's why they were walking around sad. You know what I'm talking about? When they couldn't find him. That's sometimes you sit back and look at when you set your hope on something. Come over here to Proverbs 13 and 12. Y'all can see that's what that's written at. Proverbs 13 and 12. Sit back right here, right? Hope deferred make the heart sick. But when the desire come, it is a tree of life. You sit back and you look at it. When they seen their desire of a Mashiach, ended up being a tree of life because they were able to eat the fruits of that, which was the Ruach HaKodesh. Because remember, he told you, except the corn and wheat fall on the ground and die, but abide alone. But if it died, bring forth much fruit. And it brought forth the fruits of righteousness, which is through the righteous obedience of faith. So let me tell you something, right? When you set your hope on something and you got to wait for it and there's a little time for it to come, that stuff, that'll make your heart sick. Make your heart real sick. And it's understandable. But you have to sit back and look at it. You have to keep on going. That hope was deferred for Jacob for 14 years. He kept on going, though. That word for deferred is mashak, and it's to draw, or to drag, or draw out, or to seize, or to postpone. You know what I'm saying? And you have to sit back and look at it. Right now, our hearts seem to be made sick because we have to wait. And that word for sick is kalas, to become weak or sick or diseased or grieved or sorry. And sometimes when we have to, and you're going to see that with the apostles, sometimes you sit back and you look at it and you got to wait for that hope. that you set yourself on, that junk make you grieve to have you sorrowful. But you have to keep on going. You can't allow that to do that there, because that what you desire for when it comes is going to be a tree of life, just like the man told you, when that desire comes. When the Mashiach comes, it's going to be like a tree of life for you if you just hold on. And that's also dealing with lust. And I know I mentioned that's the other thing we were going to be dealing with lust. That's what it was. I forgot about that. Come on to Zechariah 13. Praise the Lamb. We have to look at the different aspects of lust, because every aspect of lust is not negative. And there's certain things that pertain to it, because there's different words depending on when it's used. Zechariah 13, verse 6. Listen what he tell you. And one shall say unto him, what are these wounds in thy hands? Then he shall answer, those which I have wounded in the house of my friends. See, these are the wounds that I caught in the house of my friends. He say one would write or engrave upon his hands, and then he would surname himself Yashar'al. This is what it says now. This is talking about the crucifixion of Hamashiach. Saying, talking about you naming yourself Yashar'al. He was talking about what the master had to go through to take that name on. This is what dudes want to overlook. That's what the initial verses were even talking about when it even came before it, about how he was going to look out for him. And he was going to do all of these things. You could even sit back and look at the master being exceedingly sorrowful unto death. Hope deferred. It was making his heart sick. Because you got to wait to get what you're coming for. Isaiah 49 and 14. See, this might make some people mad. Isaiah 49 and 14. I don't care though. Never did, never will. Ain't finna start now. Isaiah 49 and 14. Make it 13. Sing, O Shamahim, and be joyful, O Arats, and break forth into singing, O mountains of Yahuwah. For Yahuwah, O mountains, for Yahuwah have comforted his people. He will have mercy upon his afflicted. We sat back and we seen that with Jacob, how last week, how Jacob was afflicted, and Yah had mercy on him. We sit back and see how Mashiach was afflicted, and he didn't suffer his Kadesh one to see corruption, as we're about to read. He had mercy on him. You know what I'm saying? This man comforts those, because when you're afflicted, you're usually sorrowful in your mourning, and he'll have comfort upon you. It's the same thing you sit back looking at hope deferred, make the heart sick. He'll have comfort upon you. Say, when the desire come, it be as a tree of life. You know what I'm saying? He say, remember the mercy or the pity of Yahuwah, and have patience, and remember those that endure. See, that's what we were talking about last week, was endurance. A lot of people don't want to endure. A lot of people don't want to endure because they don't really desire this man like this here. That desire to come under them to be that tree of life, they're not willing to wait for it. So they're not willing to suffer. Let's look at the thing, say in verse 14. But Zion said, Yahuwah hath forsaken me, and my master hath forgotten me. Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget, yet I will not forget thee. Behold, I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands. Thy walls are continually before me. He said, I have graven you on the palms of my hands. It said that in Isaiah 44 and 5, that one would engrave on his hand, on the yard, that one would do this, and then name himself or give him the title of Yashar'al. Because it says that now it didn't even say it's a name, it said it is a title. Well, we already looked at what that title means. That thou as a prince rule with Elohim, and thou hast power with Elohim and with men, and have prevailed. So in order to be, that's why he said not all Yashar'al is of Yashar'al. In order for this to occur, you would have to do something. You would have to do what this man did. You would have to be pierced in your hands and in your feet. And then that way this man's name would be engraven upon your hands. You stand before him. And then you could take on that name, and then you would have power with Elohim. As Paul said, the kingdom of Elohim is not in word, but in power. Let's look at something, right? Let's look at Luke chapter 9, right? And after we look at Luke chapter 9, Luke 9 and 22. Luke 9 and 18. Just look at Luke 9 and 18, and then Luke 24, and probably wrap it up from there. And it came to pass as he was alone praying, his disciples were with him, and he asked them, saying, Whom say the people that I am? They answering said, Yashar'al near Mercer, but some say Elijah, and others say that one of the old prophets is risen again. He said unto them, But whom say ye that I am? Peter answering said, The Mashiach of Elohim. And he straitly charged them and commanded them to tell no man that thing, saying, The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders and the chief priests and scribes and be slain and be raised the third day. Now you sit back and you look at it, right? If you're going to sit back and you're going to be conformed to the image of the Son and you're going to take on his sufferings, if you're going to take on his sufferings, then that will cause you to be rejected of men. Like Isaiah 65, your brethren that cast you out for my name's sake. And you're going to have to suffer many things, just like we read last week with Jacob. You're going to have to suffer many, many things. And nobody wants to do this. Nobody don't want to do this here. Like Paul said, man, I want to be made conformable unto his sufferings, that I may be made like unto his resurrection. Do we really love this man? Do we really know this man? Do we really seek to become this man? Or are we just using words? And he said to them all, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his stake daily and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. Do you not realize the master lost his life for the Father's sake, not of his own? Because say Mashiach shall be cut off, but not for himself. He did not do this for himself. Again, this is going to show the difference between those who are chosen and those who are just called. Because those who are chosen will mortify themselves and they will die with him. Those that are called will show the outward appearance of righteousness, but inwardly be full of dead men's bones and hypocrisy and iniquity. Ever learning, never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. That's what's going to happen. Now let's look at Luke chapter 24. Luke chapter 24, verse 15. Make it 13. And behold, two of them went the same day to a village called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 80 furlongs. And they talked together of all those things which had happened. And it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Yahushua himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were holden that they should not know him. And he said unto them, What manner of communications are these that you have one to another as you walk and are sad? Because hope deferred makes the heart sick. That hope had been deferred, and they were grieved. And one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answering, said unto him, Art thou only a stranger in Jerusalem? Hast thou not known the things which are come to pass there in these days? And he said unto them, What things? And they said unto him, Concerning Yahushua of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before Elohim and all the people. And how the chief priests and rulers delivered him to be condemned to death, and have crucified him. It's engraved on his hands and in his feet, pierced him, just like he told you. But we trusted it had been he which should have redeemed Yashar'al. And besides all this, today is the third day that these things were done. Their heart was desperately sick. Desperately sick. Because they seen that their hope had been deferred. They said back looking at we don't understand what's going on. And they were grieved and they were very sad. But let's sit back and look at, but when that desire comes, it shall be a tree of life. Let's look at about verse 30. Matter of fact, I just read it all the way down. It ain't gonna hurt nothing because we finna close this up anyway. And a certain of them, where he say, and when we had found not his body, they came, saying they had seen also a vision of Malachim, which said that he was alive. Certain of them which were with us went to the sepulchre and found it even so as the women had said, but saw him not. Then he said to them, O fools and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not Mashiach have to suffer these things and to enter into his esteem? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. You know, it also tell you in Jeremiah 17 that when you trust in Yah, you'll be like a tree planted up by a river. That same tree that's by that river of life in Revelation chapter 22. See, when that desire comes, because your heart... See, just sit back and look at it, right? It say, blessed are those that are mourn, for they shall be comforted. See, it's a lot of people, they don't necessarily grieve and are sad. It's not necessarily... See, I'm going to tell you something, right? The book say sadness makes the countenance of a man stronger. Now, just should you walk around sad and dejected and depressed every day? Absolutely not. But the word say with what much knowledge comes much grief, and that Mashiach was a man of sorrows. You know what I'm saying? And it seems like sometimes when we come and deal with the word, that we necessarily want to avoid those things, not knowing that these things will make you stronger spiritually. And that the joy that you have when it's filled will be stronger and fuller because of the things of which you may have suffered to be conformed to this man and to be made like this man. And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded on the thing unto them, and all the scriptures of things concerning himself. And they drew nigh unto the village whither they went, and he made as though he would have gone further. But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is towards evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them. And it came to pass, as he sat at meat with them, he took bread and baruched it and brake and gave to them, and their eyes were open, and they knew him, and he vanished out of their sight. And they said one to another, Did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us by the way, and while he opened to us the scriptures? And they rose up the same hour and returned to Jerusalem, and found the 11 gathered together that were with them, saying, The Master is risen indeed, and appeared unto Simon. And they told what things were done in the way, and how he was known of them in breaking of bread. And as they thus speak, Yahshua himself stood in the midst of them, and saith unto them, Shalom be unto you. But they were terrified and affrighted, and supposed that they had seen a ruach. And he said unto them, Why are ye troubled, and why do thoughts arise in your hearts? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me, and see, for a ruach hath not flesh and bones, as you see me have. And when he had thus spoken, he showed them his hands and his feet. Now it's interesting that after he done sat back, and we know in John chapter 20, he say, Stick your hands in the print in my hand. Look at John chapter 20, and you can see this here. They can see the engraving on his hand. This is after his resurrection, and you can see that now he has the title of Yashar'al. We'll read that in Romans chapter 1 as well. 20 and 27. Then saith he to Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing. Now we really are going to sit back and look at this here. You have to be faithful, and not faithless, but believing, if you're going to mortify yourself with him. If you're going to be made like and crucify yourself in his death, like Paul talked about in Romans 6. Because he sat back and seen the engraving in this man's hands. This man is now the son of Elohim. He is now Yashar'al. He now has power as Elohim and with men, and have prevailed. Because now he's overcame. He's overcame death. He's overcame sin. He's overcame all of this, and he's showing him this by showing him his hand to show that he can take on the title of Yashar'al. Not for a nigga in the United States of America to name himself Israel. That ain't what that's telling you about. That's not what it's talking about. That has nothing to do with you. That has nothing to do with you giving yourself a name. Period. That has to do with you taking on the name of Mashiach, because if you die with him, then you would be naming yourself as the name of Mashiach. Therefore, you would be taking on the name of Yashar'al. You'd be taking on the name of Yisrael. What I want to name, what did I miss? 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Now after 1 Corinthians 15, 2 Timothy 2 and 19. First Corinthians 15 and 12. Now if Mashiach be preached that he rose from the dead, how say some among you that there is no resurrection of the dead? But if there be no resurrection of the dead, then Mashiach is not risen. And if Mashiach be not risen, then our preaching is in vain, and your faith is also vain. Yea, we are found false witnesses of Elohim, because we have testified of Elohim that he raised up Mashiach, whom he raised not up, if so be that the dead rise not. For if the dead rise not, then is not Mashiach raised. And if Mashiach be not raised, your faith is vain, and ye are yet in your sins. Then they also which are fallen asleep in Mashiach are perished. In this life only we have hope in Mashiach. We are all men most miserable. But now is Mashiach risen from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that slept. For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, so in Mashiach all be made alive. I mentioned Romans 1. Let's get that. Romans 1 and 3. And then 2 Corinthians chapter 2 Timothy chapter 2. So when he sit back and he look at as the master being resurrected, reason why we read that, because you've seen after the master's resurrection, he showed his apostles his hands. He showed how he engraved in his hand and that he was able to take on the title of Yashar'al because he had overcame. He had power with Elohim, and he had power with man, and he prevailed. Therefore, he could now rightfully take that name. See, he didn't have that name until he resurrected from the dead because he could not at that time take that name until he prevailed. You got to remember, when Jacob got that name, is why? Because he prevailed over Amalekite. Hamashiach prevailed over the prince of this world. He had been judged. He prevailed over Satan. Satan bruised his heel. He stepped on his head. He prevailed. He overcame him. Concerning his son Yahushua HaMashiach, our master, which was made of the seed of Daud according to the flesh, and declared to be the son of Elohim with power. So to be able to become to be declared the son of Elohim with power, that goes back to Isaiah 59. That's his Ruach being upon you. And according to the Ruach of Kadesh, by the resurrection of the dead. So all this going to sit back and show you that sit back and look at is that you die to your sins, if you die to the flesh, that you die to the world, that you can be quickened and made alive because you immersed yourself into his death. Therefore, you can be able to become Yashar'al because you would have engraved in your hand and overcame. 2 Timothy 2:19. Second Timothy 2:19. If I can actually get up to it. 2 Timothy 2:19. Nevertheless, the foundation of Elohim stands sure, having this seal. The master know them that are his. And let every one that name the name of Mashiach depart from iniquity. When we sit back and we look at naming ourselves after Mashiach, then you sit back and look at because you would have did what we read in Luke chapter 9, which is crucify yourself with him, take up your stake, and die with him. But nevertheless, hallelujah for Yahushua and the word. Hope everybody understood all that. Hope all that was clear. Everybody on the stream, we love you. Bless y'all the house of y'all name of Yahushua, but we about to depart. Y'all will. I speak with y'all on the Shabbat. Everybody on the phone, y'all straight. Everybody good?